How's everyone? My name is James Richardson. I'm an assistant professor here at LaGuardia Community College. I'm the program coordinator for the New Media Technology Department. Just to give you a little bit of background on how I got into the tech field, I didn't start out initially in new media. I actually started out in college as an English major. I was one of those English majors that you were talking about. When I graduated, I've always been interested in video games, like most kids my age at the time, video games, music, and so forth. But when I got out of college, I looked around at the salaries that English majors were making and the opportunities for them at the time, and I was like, I got to eat. So, luckily, over the time, I'd always, kept my computer skills up to date. So what happened was the very first job that I got, I worked for a corporation by the name of MetLife. And I worked in their voice and data networking department, which basically meant that I was the kind of guy who basically went around, installing phone mail systems. Anyone ever, everyone has cell phones, right? So what happens when you set your voicemail? I was the guy who basically kind of programmed those type of systems. I migrated from there to working on network engineering systems such as large-scale routers, LAN, WAN, wide area networks, and basically connecting large buildings between one another through high-speed networks. And over time, one of the things I can tell you about the IT field is that it's constantly changing. And you have to be one of the people who are interested in constantly updating and renewing your skills. And if you're not, then it's probably not the field for you. If you like to learn and if you really like technology, you'll always find a job. And that's one thing I've been very lucky at. Regardless how the economy has gone, largely because I've been able to keep my skills up, I've always been able to find employment. And I'm not talking about jobs that are just kind of like, so-so. I'm talking about very well-paying jobs. So the question that most people ask me, at least all my students ask me, is like, Professor, why are you teaching then? Teachers make a lot less money, I'm talking about a lot less money, than IT professionals. The point that I'm trying to bring up is that one of the reasons that I went into teaching is I like sharing my knowledge, and I like being able to train new professionals. The field, and I fluctuate a lot going back and forth between, I see my friends who are still working in the IT sector. Many of them are, doing quite well. And you kind of fluctuate back and forth between, quality of life issues, and you might hear these kind of things later on when you get a little bit older. But overall, one of the things I would honestly tell you about working in the field of IT is that as long as you're willing to keep your skills up, you'll always find employment. The opportunities are immense, a lot more so than when I first graduated from college. I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about game design. We talked about, new things that are cropping up left and right. I mean, like, who would have thought that something like YouTube a couple of years ago would have been a reality? Now we have high-speed networks bringing video directly into our houses. You have people basically starting to market their own independent films via the web. To be honest with you, it's amazing. How many people in here buy CDs? How many of you buy CDs? Okay. The whole issue of digital distribution, how music, how entertainment is going to get to us, is radically shifting. And where it's going, who knows? I know that it's going to be profitable for some people who are smart enough to kind of figure out a way to make a profit off of it. And when you look at the guys who basically created companies like Google or Yahoo or YouTube, the two knuckleheads who basically created YouTube are multimillionaires. And the technology itself really wasn't that revolutionary. It was an idea. And it was the way that they were actually able to implement that idea that made them extremely successful. One of the things I would tell students constantly is, one of the best tools that you have, especially at this point in your life, is a fresh perspective. You're able to see things that, no offense, but older guys like me might miss. You have an opportunity now that, I wish I had coming out of school, to basically be new media, digital media entrepreneurs. You can go into business for yourself. You can work for other corporations. The possibilities are endless. Once again, as long as you're willing to keep your skills up. That's one thing I always am extremely fearful of, is getting away from the technology. Becoming one of those guys who kind of gets complacent with your place in the world. And I can honestly say that, as long as you keep your skills up and you constantly are interested in the stuff that you're doing, you'll never be unemployed. A lot of programmers, a while back we heard about programmers, or a lot of programming jobs are going overseas. They're going to India. They're going over here. U.S. programmers are not going to have an opportunity. And to that I say that's garbage. And the reason is that, sure, a lot of the corporate programming jobs may go overseas, but maybe some of those programmers might migrate into other areas, such as game design, where a lot of the major games that are being developed here in the U.S. Keep an open perspective. Keep an open mind. This is a time in your life when, honestly, almost anything is possible, where you can actually go from being dead broke one day to being a multimillionaire the next if you watch the signs. Part of it is basically training. Part of it's basically determination, being willing to take a chance. Part of it's looking at what the landscape is. And what a landscape I mean is looking where the next big kind of trend is going to go, and hopefully getting there before somebody else. I've worked in corporations. I've worked for myself. I'm working as an educator now. There's pluses and minuses to all of those. The last bit of thing that I'm going to leave you with today, the last piece of information, advice from me, is do what you love. Do what truly inspires and keeps you excited. I love video games. I love cartoons. I'm a 42-year-old man. My entire DVD collection at home consists of the Justice League, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel. My kids crack up at me. They think I'm kind of off. But I'm a big kid at heart. So the field of new media for me allowed me to basically integrate a lot of the things that I was actually passionate about into my work. Do what you love, and I guarantee you that you'll be a success. Well, do what you love and work hard at it. Those are the two things. Thank you for listening to me rant on for a couple of minutes. If any of you would like to ever talk about, fields in the area of new media, please don't hesitate to contact me. I can always be reached at my website, jamesrichardson.net. It's an easy one to remember. I enjoy working with young people and helping them figure out, particularly in the areas of information technology, helping them figure out a path that's best for them. With that said, thank you very much for listening to me.